Hello, Seattle Seahawks fans. Get ready to use all 32 layers. Um, yeah, I know this logo might seem a little bit simple from the outside. You might think, how does this guy end up using all 32 layers? Well, two things. If you know me, you know why. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know why it ends up with 32 layers. But if you've never watched any of my videos, I try to get things perfect, and perfect to me not only means getting the general shape right. Perfect doesn't mean like just making it recognizable. I can make it recognizable rather easily, but I try to go for more than that. I try to get every nook and cranny correct. I try to get every edge correct. Like if an edge is curved a little bit, I try to curve that edge if I have a layer to do so. Sometimes you got to make compromises, but in this logo, yeah, I mean, I get as close to perfect as possible. So right now, I'll start you off with a tutorial. Enough rambling. Yeah, the strategy I'm using right now is just cropping out some of the main portions of the logo. Right now, this is just the back of the head, and I start with those two bare rectangles so that I can really get a bearing for where I want things to be. And then I start cropping the shapes, and you'll start to see it take shape very shortly. Like right now, that semicircle serves as the eye socket, and yeah, by now you should probably see where this is going. So I begin with that cropping strategy, and then basically from here on out I no longer crop as much, but I actually build upon like layer after layer, and I especially for like the eye socket, I try to create curves from here on out, not by cropping, but by laying like one curved piece after another curved piece after another curved piece. And generally that's not the best strategy, especially if you have like a lot of curves. You might want to find a way to make a semicircle and then make another semicircle to crop the curves out that way. It makes it more smooth. But these curves we're going to be dealing with are rather small, so they're going to be kind of pixelated anyway, so I wasn't too worried about cropping. I was comfortable just laying one curve after another. So you just saw me lay a piece down that was a different color from the surrounding pieces, and yet again I did that. That's just so I can see the tools that I'm using a lot better, especially when you're dealing with when you're trying to make a curve like that, and when you're trying to smooth it out. I don't know, I just like seeing where the tools are, so I can make adjustments rather easily. By the way, if you're having trouble with this eye socket, you're in good company. If you consider me good, because I had some real trouble with the eye socket as well. It's just a difficult thing to address, really. Like that small of curve, you have to make it fit the shape of the eye socket. You have to make sure it's in proportion with the rest of the logo. You have to make sure the eye is large enough. It's rather daunting, but stick with it, because that's probably the worst part about this logo. Or not the worst part, it's not bad or anything, it's just the most difficult part. Yeah, once I'm done with that eye socket and that eye in general, it's pretty smooth sailing. So I'm just making a tiny adjustment right now to the like one of the first rectangles we laid out. That's just so I can get the forehead right. And by the way, it looks right now like the beak is cut off. I know it looks funny. I'm about to crop that and correct it. And yeah, one, not really a tip, but maybe recommendation would be to, if you believe the beak might be a little too small compared to the rest of the logo right now, just move the rest of the logo a little to the left, and then you can fit a larger beak in there. So now I'm just making a lot of little adjustments, trying to get a feel for what the final version of this logo is going to look like. And very shortly I'm going to begin changing all of those oddly colored blue tools to the actual like navy-ish blue that you see in the logo. And that's because I'm done with them. Like once I'm comfortable with the position of a certain tool, I'll change it back to the actual color. Yeah, so like I said, pretty smooth sailing from here. We're just creating the white part of the beak. Really the last tricky part is the tool I'm about to use right here. That's the only tricky part, because by the way, when you're using it, just make it a little thicker. And really the reason it's kind of tough is because you form the bottom of the eye. At the same time, you're using it to create the little notch toward the top of the white part of the beak. For the mouth, make sure that the tool that I just used, not the one I'm using now, the tool I just used, is like 1/4 of the distance of the entire of the beak, or of the mouth, not the whole beak, but the two tools that form the mouth. Make sure that the leftmost tool is just like, I get 1/4 of that distance, and that the other tool, the tool that's slanting downward and to the right, is the other 3/4 of that distance. You don't want your mouth looking too funky, and if it weren't that way, like I think the logo looks like the bird in the logo looks angry or something, so giving it that angle is imperative. And yeah, a couple minor crops before I get to the eyes, which I'm doing now. And for the eyes, I nearly got the perfect tool. There was no perfect tool, but this is close enough. And for the tool that you use, just I guess scrunch it down a little bit, if you know what I mean, like flatten it a bit. So yeah, that's it. You're good to go. Again, if you think the beak might be a little too small, just shift the logo over to the left a little bit. Thanks for watching.